and welcome to episode 2 of the Whale Talk podcast. Episode 2, where I actually have a co host. Good evening, Geofits. Now, we are recording this in the evening, so that's why I'm saying
Good
good
evening
evening.
to you too. Yeah,
Good morning.
glad to be here. I'm across an ocean from you over here in the US, but
Oh, yeah,
it
I'm
is still evening.
I'm stationed in France, and yeah, it's more remote looking at whales and dolphins. I'm a little bit landlocked, unfortunately.
Mhm.
So I
Fortunately, I am right on the coast.
I have been spending like I've meant to be it's meant to be that I've been preparing for this all of today. I mean, I've been preparing for this for the last week. Today, I sat on my computer watching a webcam that's meant to show whales and orcas, and the entire day I was watching a sea lion resting on a rock. So
Ah,
my day has been productive.
uh, Similar to that, I did see a video about a walrus that had gotten a little, down the coast, I think it was around, England, France, Spain, for a little while, and it kept climbing onto boats, so they built a little pontoon couch for it until it finally floated back north and went back to the Arctic Circle.
Oh my god, that's brilliant.
Yeah,
That's brilliant.
it was great. I'll
A
see if I can find
walrus
the video and
couch.
send it to you.
All right. So, okay, I'll first say this is your first time experiencing these segments, and unfortunately, that means it's your first time experiencing our whale facts. So
Indeed.
this month I have some very interesting whale facts. Now these whale facts are technically correct. Um, they're just not the things you would first think of when it comes to whale facts. So, in an effort to clear up some potential confusion, I feel I need to confirm that whale researchers are not actually whales themselves.
That's a whale fact.
That is a whale fact. Now, I think we might actually come to something that might dispute this a little bit later. Come to think of it, did you know that no whales actually hold marine biology diplomas?
That's a whale fact. My
And
only challenge to that, though, is the dolphin on Sequest. Did he have a diploma?
I don't know. I've not seen Sequest.
Uh, okay, that shocks me, Cravone.
I've actually not seen. It's it's it is sci-fi, right?
Yes,
How
it
have I
was
not
a
seen it?
because it's a really bad series from the like mid '90s. I think it only lasted 3 seasons. The basic premise of the show is that you have this. It's almost like a Star Trek where it's like you have a crew, but they're on a submarine. But they also have this dolphin, and they have like a tank inside and like hatches so it can go out and do stuff. But they
Ah,
also have a translator so they can actually communicate with the dolphin.
so it's like in Star Trek where on some ships they have cetacean ops
Yeah.
for
Yeah,
reasons.
it's yeah. Yeah, I mean, you should definitely watch it. I'll also say there's some really cool Frank Lloyd Wright architecture, um, featured in the show in a few episodes because of where they filmed it.
So for a final whale fact of the month. Now this is kind of funny. Did you know that no whale has ever spent money on video game currency?
That's a whale fact.
It also depends on what definition of whale.
Oh yeah, well, because yeah, a whale in the industry definitely has.
Yeah.
Which
Okay.
industry? No.
Yeah, the gaming industry. Well, it's not just the gaming industry. I think it's any industry with like currency that you can buy like that.
hmm
So we're gonna get into the news, and I've got a lot of news. I almost feel like we should cover the smaller articles before the really big ones because there's some meaty topics here today.
Alrighty.
So I'm actually first of all gonna start with I'm gonna start from the bottom, at least for now. We'll cover the quicker articles. So the Iberian ecotype orcas have been spotted off the coast of Cornwall, United Kingdom, for the first time ever this month. The month of July, I should say. This is going out in August, but we're talking about news of the month of July. Now, the thing that really brought me to this article was more the fact that my old lecturer was actually like referenced in the article, which I found cool.
Yeah, that's definitely a cool feeling.
It's like you read a name and you recognize it because you've actually spoken with this person, and not only have you spoken with this person was actually teaching you at university.
Yeah, it's like the feels like the Leonardo DiCaprio meme where it's like he snapped pointing at the TV, like yeah, I know that guy.
Yeah. So there was also that was reported by the BBC. Our next story was ABC News, and this is based in Australia. This story, and that is that dolphins have been seen using sponges when hunting, and this is actually kind of curious because this is tool use, and they actually use these sponges to avoid cutting themselves or hurting themselves when they're hunting fish inside rocks.
And we're talking about natural sponges, right?
Yeah, natural sponges.
Hmm. That is really interesting.
Yeah. Uh, is
Hmm.
there really? I'll have to look up. I'll have to look up after this. Why are like man-made sponges called sponges? There has to be some kind of basis
Well, it
of
is
similarity.
because it is because originally it was natural sponges.
Yeah.
And you actually can still get natural sponges as well to use in the shower. That's still an industry. So the artificial ones are just replicating what, you know, sea sponges do.
Yeah. So I'm gonna go to number 4 in the document, and then I'm gonna go number 5. So also posted by ABC, which is this is also in Australia. Apparently, I get a lot of news articles in Australia. There have been suggestions of an ecotype split in orcas around Australia. So this is suggesting that there are two separate ecotypes. One being temperate, one being tropical, with the tropical ecotype typically more north and the temperate typically more south. And so the tropical ecotype hunts humpback whale calves, but they are very not generalist. They're quite specific in what they hunt, and they
Mhm.
are not doing well. They've not really had that many calves recently. Their population is kind of dwindling,
Yeah.
and
And of course, if they're specialized, if there's been any distress in the humpback whale population, then that has a carry-on effect. Yeah.
yeah. So and we're gonna actually touch on this when we talk about World Orca Day, where orcas are referred to as an umbrella species. And what that
Hmm.
typically means is we can judge how healthy the ecosystem is
Hmm.
by looking at our umbrella species. So these are typically apex predators because
Yeah.
if something further down in the food chain is not doing well, then the apex predators will probably not be doing well either.
Hmm.
And probably a more extreme example of this would be the Northwest Pacific region with the orcas, where
Hmm.
the big orcas, their population is doing very well, and if you look through the actual ecosystem, and the food chain, their part of the food chain is actually doing really well. The seal population is very healthy. What the seals eat is like that population is very healthy. But at the same time, in the same locales, you've got salmon, which are a keystone species, who are really,
Mhm.
really not doing well. They are critically endangered, particularly
Yep.
Chinook salmon. And
Yeah.
as a result, you've got the southern residents who are also not doing well. Now, granted, they're not doing well for multiple other reasons, other than just lack of food. But lack of food is one of the biggest things.
Mhm. Yeah, you pile them all together.
Yeah.
It's never just one thing, right?
No,
Well,
it's
except
it's
humans. It
always
could just be humans.
it's always most. The thing is, if you use the label, it's just humans. That's too broad a term because you have to think what what are humans doing to cause this? Like what
Yeah.
specific action? Is it like when it comes to the Yangtze River dolphin that became extinct this
Yeah.
century? Why is that? Is that because of the dams? Is that because of pollution? Is that because
Mhm.
of like removal of prey?
Yep.
It's not just one, it's multiple elements, but there's some elements that are being more damaging than others.
Yeah.
So so back onto the story, the tempera ecotype that's been suggested has a much broader diet. So they feed mostly on squid and fish, and they're the ones that you might see on YouTube. Anyone that like posts orca videos in Bremer Bay, for instance, and I know it's becoming a little bit more popular now. That's the tempera ecotype in the south
Mhm.
of Australia. So, did you know? Did you know, Geofits? Did you know about beluga bits?
No.
Okay, so beluga bits. This is something I've been following quite recently. Have you ever wanted to be a citizen scientist from your own home? Have you ever wanted to look at a webcam towed on a boat and help scientists by saying there's a beluga there, and that actually being useful for research and conservation?
Yeah, that's
Because
pretty cool.
that is what beluga bits are doing. And currently, it's only scheduled to go until the 1st of August. I don't know if they're doing it for like longer than that. But I can't see any more scheduled streams. So their streams are on this platform called explore.org. And explore.org also have the Orca Lab webcams, which have been fantastic the last few days. And so this is the Beluga Bits Citizen Science Project um, is identifying and cataloging beluga whales in their annual migrations, and they're using cameras from boats in Hudson Bay, which is in the north of Canada. And so I don't know if it's close to coming to an end for this year, but this is something that they do every year.
Yeah,
So
that's
I
pretty neat.
I will leave a link to that in so I so when this goes out to YouTube, I will leave a pin comment with all the links because my the YouTube account for Well Talk has not been existing long enough for me to actually put links in the description. So I actually just have to put them as a pinned comment. So
Well.
okay, have we got any other short articles? We have a short article that it's kind of big news, but it's not something that will probably take a lot of time to talk about. I mean, we'll get into the big topics in a minute. It's article number 2. This month, Mexico have banned they have banned captive marine mammal shows. Well, specifically whale and dolphin shows. I'm not sure if this includes um, things like sea lions.
Hmm.
So the new general wildlife law uh, was voted unanimously by the country's Senate, and unanimously means everyone in the Senate voted for this law. And this is following a video that emerged of an incident of a dolphin being injured after actually landing on concrete, not landing in the tank. So, as a result of that, Mexico have now banned uh, the use. The use. They have now banned captive marine mammal shows, which is step one to outlawing captive marine mammals, which I think we can all be in favor of.
Hmm.
So that was reported by WDC. We like WDC here. So, shall we get into our number one topic?
Let's go
This
for it.
this is kind of a big one. So this one, I could not look for any news about whales and dolphins this month without coming across an article or two or several about this particular thing. And so the Independent reported this, Live Science reported this, Science Alert reported it, WDC reported it, and it is about orcas sharing food with humans. And so I had to dig very deep to find the actual original article from this. It's actually a very interesting read. I spent ages I read through the whole article for once. And so the original is called "Testing the Waters: Attempts by Wild Killer Whales or Sinusorca to Provision People Homo sapiens," and it's authored by Jared Towers, Dr. Ingrid Visser, and Vanessa Prigolini. I hope I pronounced that right. And I saw this, I'm like, immediately, I know who Jared Towers is. I know who Ingrid Visser is. They're in opposite parts of the world. So this was posted,
Mhm.
and I will include a link to this in the pinned comment as well. So I think we're probably going to have a discussion about this. So I'll outline what this paper says to begin with. So this has been posted by many outlets, and the study focused on 34 instances, video recorded instances, of orcas offering food to humans. And those that were involved in this were then interviewed by the scientists to get more information. And these happened in all age classes and genders of orcas. It happened with people on boats, people in the water, and people on shore. This occurred in 4 separate oceans, all with different ecotypes. Now, the one well-known ecotype that has not been observed in this are the southern resident orcas. Now, the orcas have offered a variety of things: mammals, fish, birds, a reptile, invertebrates, and even once seaweed. Apparently, they think we eat seaweed. I mean, they're not wrong. Some people
Yeah,
do.
some people do.
So every instance involved the orca. So what they would define as the orca approaching to give us food is that they had to be a certain distance away initially, and they had to they had to deliberately come towards the person, and they would have to actually stop and wait for a reaction from the person. And so every instance of this involved an orca waiting for a response from the human.
Hmm.
Some of these interactions involved the orcas trying to offer the same food more than once to the same person. And this is very interesting. And there's I've got three I've got three reasons listed here that the article talked about, and I kind of think they all might apply here. So the report in general suggests that this may potentially be early signs of convergent evolution between dolphins and primates, particularly intellectually. So they outline three potential reasons for this. And I think this is where we can have a big discussion on this, because the first reason they suggest is that because orcas will prey share within their family. So one will get the kill on a seal, and then it will share food with all the family. And there's no evidence to say that certain family members will get food first or anything. It's just
Mhm.
it's just that they make sure everyone's getting fed.
Has there been observations of families prey sharing between each other?
Yeah. So when, for instance, two pods of big orcas get together and one like hunts a seal, it will then prey share between the two families or the two groups.
Interesting.
And this also very much happens when they hunt whales, because sometimes they need multiple pods to hunt a
Mhm.
whale calf. And in fact, earlier this year there was a super pod of about 60 orcas observed hunting a pygmy blue whale
Wow.
in the was that I think that was the South Pacific that was spotted. So they would have definitely prey shared. It's like,
That's a lot of orcas in one place.
yeah. So there's precedent behind this. Now the reason why potentially the southern residents don't like haven't been recorded prey sharing with people is because they don't actually prey share themselves. Because
Mhm.
what they hunt are salmon, and salmon's kind of too small to prey share.
Yeah, well, I was also thinking along those lines of any that are more exclusively onto, like, fish and squid, like, you're not really gonna prey share small things. Makes
Yeah.
sense with big things, yeah.
So I can't remember what I read about the invertebrate that was spotted that they had tried to show. It might have been, I don't know. So I mean, so there was birds that were being offered, and in fact the video that came with the article was of a bird, and this was actually
Mhm.
recorded by the lead author of this paper.
The reptiles one is sticking out to me.
This this I believe was a turtle.
Mhm. Listen, for a
I
moment, I just wanted to imagine an orca bringing an alligator up to someone, you know?
I I got asked the question on stream the other day. How do orcas interact with other apex predators? And
Mhm,
that sent me down the biggest rabbit hole of what if an orca meets a saltwater crocodile?
mhm.
What happens then? Because it's very rare, but they could cross paths.
Yeah.
And I actually don't think the orcas will do anything. I think they'll leave each other alone. Because the orcas that live there, I think, hunt. Those are the ones that hunt humpback whale calves, I think.
Mhm,
Um, so the second potential reason, and by the way, all of these three reasons have been mentioned, that they could be all non-mutually exclusive. So it could be all three reasons at once. So the second
mhm,
potential reason is that it could be scientific exploration. They could be curious at how we respond, because they come up to us, they give food, and then they wait. They wait to see what we do before
mhm.
taking the food back. So it could be that they're actually being scientists. Whale researchers, maybe the whales are actually the researchers here.
Maybe they're working on their marine biology degrees.
Oh my gosh. In 20 years, like all of this video gets invalidated just because the whale facts actually end up being wrong. So, one, one of the simplest methods in science to understand behavior when we perform science as humans is to present a subject with a stimuli and then observe the response.
Mhm,
And I genuinely think this might be what they're doing, but I think it's more the third thing that I'm about to raise, more so
mhm,
than the first two, and that is that it could be that they want to socialize and get to know us, and
mhm.
prey sharing is a big deal within orcas. It's a social behavior. It's a very social activity, and they might be attempting to just engage us with socializing with us. And go ahead.
I guess something I'm curious, is how often were the same people being approached? Because I feel like it would be interesting to see over time, like, especially, since we assume that these are mostly researchers that this is happening to, so they're regularly in this area, they're regularly interacting with these orcas. you know, is it that are they coming to the same people that they've kind of picked, or does it end up just kind of being random or anybody? Like if someone on a recreational boat, was, out there, would an orca come up to them?
I
That's some of the questions this raises to me.
I think I think the info, like what this article is implying, is that it's not just being humans that are like known to the orcas. I don't
Mhm,
think it's ones that it might be humans that haven't actually ever had an experience with that particular group of orcas before.
mhm.
But I would see potentially. I'd like to see if it happens more with scientists that actually study those orcas.
Yeah.
Now,
'Cause that would lend some weight towards, your, hypothesis of it being more social, but also altruistic, plays into that as well.
yeah. So these are all non-mutually exclusive. Now,
And we already know orcas are really smart, so I certainly wouldn't rule out scientific exploration in any way because we have seen these patterns where where you can see that they learn, you know, learn over time to, do different things. Like when you see, maybe not, I don't know if orcas necessarily do this, but plenty of sharks and other whales that follow shrimp boats. You have these learned behaviors.
well, whales have helped. Orcas have helped whalers in the past,
Mhm.
and it's been like they've been co-hunting. They've been finding the whales for the whalers. Whalers like kill the whales, and then the orcas will then eat the tongue and lips of the whales.
Yep.
Um, so actually, we have an interesting comment in chat, which honestly, this article specifically mentioned that although extremely unlikely, they cannot rule out the possibility that this is not benevolent behavior. That and so we got a comment in chat saying, or they might be trying to catch humans.
Mhm.
This this is unlikely, but not completely unplausible. Now,
Yeah.
orcas have never displayed any sign that they have interest in hunting people. Now, whether you want to think them attacking boat rudders in Iberia, I love how that got mentioned in chat just as I mentioned that. Whether you want to consider that as aggressive behavior or whether they just find it fun to break rudders, um,
It's scientific exploration.
yeah, we don't know the reasons behind that, but it wouldn't be out of their realm of possibility to be offering food as bait. Now,
Mhm.
I
Have they ever been observed to have that kind of behavior with any other
Uh,
prey
I
species?
I believe I can't remember a particular instance off the top of my head of them doing it in the wild, but I'd imagine they would. Now, I don't want to. I don't really want to talk about their behaviors in captivity, but it's kind of hard not to because there have been instances in captivity where they have put a fish to lure a bird to then catch the
Mhm.
bird.
Yeah.
Now, granted, captivity in cetaceans cannot really be considered an accurate representation of their natural behavior.
Yeah, that could literally just be, "I'm bored out of my mind, this is fun."
Yeah, it does show that it is a that there is the potential. Now,
Yeah, the
my
intelligence is there.
my reckoning is that some orcas somewhere actually probably do this in the wild.
Mhm.
Either that or they have tried it, but their prey has wised up. That might also be something as well.
That
Because
is certainly possible.
if you think, I don't think there's any orca population in the world that actively hunts birds like frequently, except
Mhm.
for the ones that eat penguins.
Yeah, but that feels
Yeah.
a little different.
If they were trying to lure seals or sea lions, like seals and sea lions, they're intelligent. Like they'll learn.
Mhm. Yep. How many times have you seen videos of seals and sea lions, like, jumping up onto people's boats and just being like, "Well, I'm up here now."
I saw one today. I actually saw one of those videos today, and all
Mhm.
credit to the people on the boat. Everyone was just hands off.
Mhm.
It let nature take its course. If it happens, it happens. If it doesn't happen, it doesn't happen. Which I
Yeah,
think is
I don't feel like I've ever seen a video of, like, a seal or maybe a sea lion with them being a bit bigger really doing damage to a boat doing that. Or at least not like they're not, like, going to, like, attack the people that are on the boat or start tearing stuff up. They're just getting up there using it as a platform to look down on the orca and go, "Ha ha."
like if have you seen a sea lion like in person?
Only in zoos, but yes.
Uh, I I wouldn't want to be the person that tries to get a sea lion to leave my boat.
Yeah, no.
Like though they're big, they're
Well,
very big.
it was the same problem that they had with that walrus. He would just get on boats. People couldn't get him off.
And
And that's
walruses
even
have
bigger.
tusks as well.
Yes, and they're
This,
mean.
yeah. So actually, fun fact about seals. When I did my marine mammal medic course with the British Divers Marine Life Rescue back in the UK, like the first half was all about seals because seals are what you're going to be called out to like 9 times out of 10. It's very rare to be called out to like a dolphin stranding or a whale stranding. And
Mhm,
actually, talking about whale strandings, I did see today. I'm not covering it today, but I did see there's been a spike in northern bottlenose whales stranding in Scotland,
mhm.
and but they told me like they told all of us that were doing the course, like don't get bitten by a seal because seals have a tendency to not let go.
Ooh, yeah, that's not
So,
good.
and they'll bite you and it will get infected.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay. So, okay, so we got another big topic here. Now, this I'll go through the whole thing first because this is kind of bit this is kind of like two stories rolled into one. And I think you're probably going to have a lot of things to say about the second half. Is news article number three. Um, so there's been a new report suggesting that the southern resident orcas, are likely to become extinct if there isn't more done to protect them. A report from over 30 experts, both on the American and the Canadian side, um, are saying that more urgent action needs to be taken to save the southern residents from likely extinction. And this is posted by CBC, which is a Canadian outlet. And the report has a roadmap with 26 recommendations, including limits on fisheries, reduction in toxins in the water, and strict underwater noise standards. It was also quoted from one of the scientists that should an event like an oil spill occur, it would be catastrophic for the southern residents' hopes of recovery. And there's actually precedent of this. The Chugath the Chugath Orcas, I think that's what they're called. They're actually functionally extinct, and they're a group of orcas that live close to Alaska, and they were hit with an oil spill called the Exxon Valdez,
Hmm.
and since then they have not had calves, and none, like all of the females now are thought to be post-reproductive, so the population is functionally extinct. And probably another big one to cover, which I think you're probably going to have a lot to say about. Is actually something we're going to cover later on in this same news article with the Marine Mammal Protection Act. Is the BP oil spill in the Gulf of Mexico,
Yep.
and
Deep
the
Horizon.
yeah, and the effect that that had on rice whales.
Yep.
Um, so how much do you know about that?
About the rice whales specifically, only a little bit. I know that they lost something like 30% of their population, and they are pretty insular to the Gulf of Mexico, so they were very well impacted.
They they are a species on the brink of extinction. There are about 30 individuals left. So 30% of a population is enormous normally. It's even more enormous when you already have a small population.
Yeah.
They I believe they are the second most endangered station species in the world, next to the vaquita. And so the southern residents' chances are not going to be aided by proposed changes to the U.S. Marine Mammal Protection Act, which have been proposed this month. And I don't know if they're still taking public comments on it or not, but this is kind of damning. So the changes include the reduction of the mandate from ensuring. So before it was mandated to ensure healthy populations of these endangered species, such as the southern resident orcas, such as the vaquita, such as the rice whales, and the northern right whale as well, the North Atlantic right whales, because they are also on the brink of extinction. That's been downgraded to just mere survival, which means, according to the revisions to this act, doesn't matter if the population's healthy and can recover, as long as it's like two or three individuals, it's fine. Two or three
Hmm.
individuals, the population is pretty much extinct at that point.
Yeah.
Like at that point, it's gonna be like too late. So it will also allow authorization of activities that have a high chance of accidental harm to species. So this is like shipping, like boats, things like that, and oil drilling as well.
Yeah, oil drilling.
It would also remove protections from fishery based activities. So this would
Hmm.
mean that fisheries can now use gear that is probably going to be harder to remove, gear
Yeah.
that's going to entangle more species, and crucially, with this changes to the Marine Mammal Protection Act, it specifically targets Northern Atlantic right whales, and it puts on hold efforts to protect them for the next 10 years. And it specifically states 10 years. So that's kind of damning. The North Atlantic right whale population, there are 300 to 400 left. Um, the ones over on the European side of the Atlantic are functionally extinct, and the ones over in on the American side of the Atlantic are not really doing that well.
Hmm.
They're not really bouncing back because
Yeah, and of
they,
course, that's an area that has a large amount of commercial fishing and trapping,
yeah,
and like there's a lot of fishery activity in that area. Yeah.
they are they already have a very small number because of whaling that happened in the early 20th century and the 19th century.
Mm.
And for the southern resident orcas, this was also like made worse by the captive trade and the capturing of. I think the southern resident population was estimated to be around like 250 to 300 before they started capturing them from marine parks. Now they've
Hmm.
been left in a situation where they had basically a generation completely missing, and they've been trying to recover ever since.
Yeah, and I'm sure that the marine parks obviously would target younger whales, so you
Yeah,
further cutting off the reproductive cycle. Yeah.
and this also obviously affects rice whales because we
Yep.
have another deep horizon. That could be the end of the rice whales because an oil spill will typically attack the reproductive system of whales and dolphins. And when you've only got
Mm.
30 left in the population, that's kind of damning.
Yeah. Well, 30, and then if you roughly cut it in half, you're only talking about 15 females, and
Uh,
probably not all.
I
I mean,
I believe there's 18 females and 12 males,
okay. Hmm.
or vice versa, or the other way around. That's the estimate.
Hopefully it's the way you said, because that's probably a better thing.
It's better to have more females than males.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah. I mean, my yeah.
it's. I mean, I don't want to get too much into like the reasons behind this because I mean, then the podcast ends up being something
Hmm.
else. But we're seeing a we're seeing more and more of this, and we should be giving them more protection rather than
Yeah.
less.
Yeah. One small bright spot is that I believe that Florida will continue to not allow offshore oil drilling. I believe it actually is a constitutional amendment, so it would require a citizen initiative or citizen ballot measure to get the that overturned. But
I
that's a small silver lining.
I do hope that the local authorities in the areas where this will actually affect will continue to apply uh, protection towards marine mammals
Yeah,
on like a
and
local level.
and I think one of the things that's hopefully has been done well is in the development of like things that are like excluders and whatnot to try and prevent bycatch, prevent dolphins and whales from being caught in nets, those kind of things, that when you put the messaging out there to business people about, something that's conservation related, when you can bill it as this is how I will save you money, then hopefully that will mean that since these, if regulations on that kind of stuff changes, in the future, that a lot of these companies already have the equipment, already save money by not having as much bycatch, everything else. Hopefully they will continue to use it, but I know that that's a big hope in the world of capitalism.
See, I think conservation needs to use capitalism more
Mm.
when it comes to
Yeah.
like protecting the species. Because
Hmm.
these, I mean, individual people have a very small impact, like it compared to the big companies.
Yeah.
So like trying to outreach like the masses isn't going to be as impactful as like reaching the big companies. And the big companies, there's one language that they will understand more than anything else. That is loss of
Hmm.
revenue.
Yep.
If you explain to them why they are losing revenue for this, you'll get through to them much easier than
Yep.
if you try and tug on their heartstrings. Because
Hmm.
you have to tug on a lot of heartstrings to get a company to actually care about the environment.
Yeah.
Like you have to
Yeah.
tug on all the heartstrings.
Yeah.
And big company,
Is
you've got a lot of people that make the decisions.
hmm Yeah, it's funny thinking about that because I mean, it really, it's I think that applies to a lot of things that are, do good in the world, right? Is that you do have to fit it into capitalism. And I had a friend that was kind of lamenting to me about that because he had gotten his doctorates, and basically, for any of his like thesis to actually go into practice, it would have to he would literally have to convince insurance companies that this was a good thing. So part of his thesis was the financial analysis as well of, hey, if you start doing this, it will save you this much money.
Yeah,
And he said he kind of felt a little bit, slimy doing that, but sometimes that's the only
it's
way for you to get your change out into the world.
you can't solve all the problems through wishful thinking. You have to think practically,
Hmm.
and like you can't just you can't just send out your message and hope people like and assume that people will agree with your message.
Yep.
You have to like, for instance, there was an example here in France where they wanted to ban weed killer in
Hmm.
shops, and it's like, and so people found another type of weed killer, and it's like, so what you do is you don't just ban the weed killer without having an alternative. You give them a better alternative that's more practical, and then you remove the weed killer.
Hmm.
So you have to think about practically.
Yep.
It's it's also like with having more sustainable vehicles, for instance. Like at the end of the day, people are gonna probably look at the price more so than like how much it pollutes. So
Yeah.
make the environmentally like friendly vehicles, make them cheaper than the ones
Mhm.
that pollute, and then people will naturally do it. They don't have to care about the environment; they'll
Mhm.
care about their wallet. But because caring about their wallet is better for the environment,
Yep.
you get
Well, it's
switched.
like, a good example of that is, do you know why American trucks are so huge now?
No,
So, it's because when, the EPA was trying to do, emissions, related things, instead of, like, setting any kind of, like, hard numbers, they made it based on the volume of the car. So instead of, say Ford making their, V8 more fuel efficient to put in their same F-150, they just made the F-150 bigger until it had the right ratio for the emissions that the engine put into it.
Well, that's not good.
Yeah, so
That-
that's one good example of where, obviously, like, right, good thinking of regulation for, emissions and mileage or, yeah, gas efficiency, right? But poorly implemented so that capitalism just went, "Well, I'll find a better way to do this."
you need people to think of these loopholes before the companies think of them.
Yep.
Uh,
That's why it's like you like I have my like 2 or 3 people that I know that if I ever needed to test a game or rules or something that I know that they would break it. D&D players, all of them.
oh, I might be turning into that with a certain game I've been playing recently.
Mhm.
So so our final news article of the month, and oh boy, oh boy, news article 6. Now this isn't a big news article, but this gives us the chance to talk about something here. I have written so many notes since you mentioned something a little bit earlier in the month. I'm like, I have
Mhm.
to really research this now. And oh my god, this was so difficult to research because there's no precedent on these, and
Mhm.
it's not clear at all. So there's been a campaign in South Korea, on the Jeju Islands, to grant a group of bottlenose dolphins legal personhood. And this is reported by The Guardian. And so we're less going to be talking about the story, more talking about like what does legal personhood mean
Mhm.
for
Yep.
animals. So from so I read several articles, and from what I can confer, the general consensus is that legal personhood for animals is often influenced by sentience, cognitive
Mhm.
abilities, and emotional experience.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sentience is the thing that I always feel like it's pointed at as like the number one thing that it's like how do you differentiate between very smart dog and a human or very smart animal, whatever.
It's kind of it can be different to different can be difficult to differentiate between sentience and emotional experience as well.
Mhm.
Because is empathy, is that emotion or is that sentience?
Yeah.
So now you asked during the month, what if a what if, for instance, a dolphin person, a legal personhood dolphin, what if they commit a crime? So
Mhm.
from what I can gather, so no, I don't think there's actually been any case yet. There's not a precedent for this of a wild animal with personhood to have committed the crime. I don't
Yeah.
think that's the
And I think
case
when
yet.
we talked about that, I I remember I think I brought this up with you that there is a case here in Florida of one hippopotamus who, well, he doesn't really he kind of has legal personhood in a sense. He is an honorary citizen of the state of Florida. It was literally had to pass the legislature and be signed by the governor. Um, and it was because I believe there was a law that banned personal ownership of hippos, and it was to resolve something so that the hippo could stay in Florida where he was. So I did think about that because I was like, well, I mean, what if a kid fell in and if he's a citizen
So
and he attacked the kid,
he
are
probably won't be
we
liable.
putting this hippo on? I know, but are we
So
putting this hippo on trial for assault and battery?
okay, so from what I can gather researching this, so a legal person may being the key word hold rights and obligations. Now, when it comes to animals, obviously they're going for those rights, but the obligations, the legal duties. So there's a case for pets because some places have pets that are considered like with personhood.
Mhm.
Pets are legally considered as minors, to where their owner takes on a parental legal role, to
Mhm.
where if their dog goes and bites someone, that's the owner at fault.
Yes.
Which that's when you put in those terms, like that's like normal. Like,
Mhm.
you're not gonna if your dog's like dangerous, you're not gonna let off the lead, are you?
Yeah. And realistically, to have a legal framework around this, like you would have to have laws that were specific of, more specific too of like, oh well, if a dog harasses someone, they'd be punished by 6 weeks of obedience training. You'd have
Yeah.
to prescribe the penalties. But yeah.
So when it comes to wild animals, the article that I saw this was like a paper by a lawyer suggested that a a duty is a type of contract, and that
Hmm.
contract can only be validated if it is sufficiently communicated.
Hmm.
Now, animals do not understand what we're saying, so therefore it's argued that it cannot be communicated, so therefore that they are exempt from those legal duties.
Hmm.
Which
So in
brings
that
us,
way, they would be exempt from obligations.
yeah.
Doesn't necessarily mean they can't have rights. Yeah.
So, for instance, there have been some companies that have been given personhood in some places that you can communicate um, duties, so they are liable.
Hmm.
There has been a river somewhere in the world that has been granted personhood. Now, if that floods and it destroys buildings, is it liable? Of course, it's not, because you can't communicate because it's not a person. It is a
Hmm.
person technically, but
It's it's not a
it's not a
human
human
person.
person yet.
Well, and I feel like that's where some of this, like when you get into the legal speak of this, that it has to start coming in, is that you have to start putting a qualifier in front of person for almost everything, unless
I
it's something that's universal, right?
I
Because you
think
have to start differentiating between human person, dog person, whale person,
I
and then what rights are granted to each type of person.
I personally think that the term has to be different, and I've actually got here written in my notes that legal personhood for non-human persons actually goes back all the way to Roman times. They actually had a
Hmm.
word for this, persona.
Hmm.
I think persona should actually be the term that we use for this. Rather than personhood, it should be persona. But this is a legal status, so I think
Hmm.
the actual
Well,
wording is kind of difficult for most people to understand. But in a
mhm.
court of
and
law,
you know
it's
how,
not.
and you know how much lawyers love Latin, so using persona instead
Yeah.
of personhood, yeah, I like that.
So, unless you have anything more to say on that topic,
I mean, the only obvious thing to add in here is that we have two great Star Trek episodes to draw from as well. We have Measure of a Man and um, oh, I'm blanking on the name of the Voyager episode, but it's essentially the same concept where the Doctor gets recognized as an artist, so he does get recognized as a type of person, which gives him certain rights.
yeah,
And I think I might have mentioned that, or that may have even been how some of this even came up, um, when we were talking before. But yeah, like that when you had first brought this up to me, like those two episodes were the first thing that came to mind because it really is the same basic concept. Of course, there is some difference with Data and the Doctor in that you can actually communicate to them, so they could actually hold obligations as well.
yeah.
And
and they
I mean,
do.
it begs the question too of okay, say a primate that's been taught sign language, and communicates. Could you communicate obligations,
Huh.
to a monkey or an ape that way?
The question there would be, can you prove that they understood it?
Yeah, and I think
So
that's where you probably would draw the line. Yeah.
yeah, and then as you said, you'd have to have a framework of like what's the punishment for
Hmm.
this if it breaks the law,
Yep. And
because
I mean,
like
and
laws are a human made construct.
hmm I mean, and in some ways, when you think about when you're training, say, a dog or a cat, well, more so training a dog, um, you are in a way, doing the same thing of communicating an expectation, to them, and they can learn that expectation. Now, do they have the understanding? Probably not. Are they just kind of going, "Oh, yep, this means it's time to walk. Let's go. You're just giving me the sign."
I think under those circumstances, having someone responsible
Hmm.
is the way to go. Like with the chimps as well, because at the point where you teach them sign language and and they can understand, at that point, can you realistically say they are wild? Because
Hmm.
I would argue at that point they have been domesticated.
Yeah. Hmm.
So okay, so that is the news. I knew we were going to be on the news for a while. We had three big topics to talk about there. Um, so we're actually moving on to Orca of the Month. Now, with Orca of the Month, typically I will not actually show an image of the orca because it it takes a while to find whoever has the image, to contact them, ask permission if I can use them, and quite often they won't respond. So typically for Orc of the Month, I won't actually show any imagery or any videos. Today is a little bit different though, because I actually have my own photos and video of our Orc of the Month. So our Orc of the Month for August is T36 Flapjack. Now,
This was the orca I voted for.
yeah. So we actually had to tie. So we polled this in the Discord who's going to be Orc of the Month. We actually had to tie between Flapjack and J62. I decided since JPod have not been that active too recently, and they might be more active in August, I think. Um, I've decided that since it's tied, we're gonna I'm gonna cast the vote this month, and it'll be Flapjack for this month, and then next month it'll be J62. J J62's mother has also been Orc of the Month this year as well. So T36 Flapjack. Now I'm actually gonna put on screen an image of her there taken by myself. And so she is at least 55 years old, and she is a big orca, which means she eats mammals, like seals. And I described in the Discord as super grandma. Um, so she is post reproductive at this point. She has had 5 possible known calves, of which 4 are still alive. Now, the reason why I say possible is because it's actually not fully confirmed that she is the mother of T137 um, loon, but it's likely. So that so we're gonna go under the assumption that T137 is actually her daughter. So she has 4 remaining daughters. She has T36A Leland, T36B Tetatib, T99 Bella, and T137 Loon. She currently lives with her oldest daughter, T36B, Tater Tip, and when they travel, they are known as the T36s. Um, and along with Tater Tip, she actually travels with three of her grandchildren, including one granddaughter who has given birth this year. So that means she's actually traveling with a great granddaughter called Maple. Um, she is also the grandmother of one of my favorite orcas, T99B Holly. And the T36s will meet up with the T99s quite frequently. In fact, they're almost always seen together at this point. So Flapjack actually has 14 grandchildren in total and two great grandchildren. So she was last sighted in the Salish Sea on the 8th of July. However, she was actually seen more recently, as I discovered this yesterday, she was actually seen more recently near the habitat of the northern residents, over near Orca Lab at the north end of Vancouver Island. So she was seen on the 8th on the south end of Vancouver Island, and then by the 18th she was at the north end. And she was actually traveling with the T36s and T99s at that point, including Holly. And so this kind of shows how big the range of the big orcas are, that they overlap to other populations.
Yep.
Now, I have a video to show that will show why Flapjack is a special individual for me. And anyone in my stream will have seen this video a lot. And I think you've probably even seen this video in the, I'm pretty sure it's in the intro of the podcast. So this was last year that I took this. So this is Flapjack here. She's, of the three, she's the one that surfaced first. And this is Holly, her granddaughter. So kind of thrilled that she's Orca of the Month, if I'm gonna be honest.
I mean, honestly, I picked Flapjack because of the name.
There's a lot of orcas with funny names.
Yeah. I mean, that's what happens when you get a bunch of scientist nerds together.
Typically, families in orcas will have a themed, like a named theme.
Yeah.
Particularly the bigs, and I'm pretty sure this family is mostly called, like, named after tree names. So
Oh, I thought it was going to be after breakfast items because I mean we have Maple, which I mean could if Maple has a daughter, we could name it Syrup.
there's also Holly in the T99s, Holly Tree.
Yeah, that makes sense.
And then there's Botia, there's Barraquette, which is in the T99s. I can't remember the name of her other granddaughter that she travels with, but there's typically a theme. Um, so speaking of orcas that we keep track of, so our community actually do have an orca adopted by adopted with the Whale Museum, located in San Juan Island. And she's called T90 Balena, and we get a monthly update. And so it's been like November since she was actually last sighted, until this month. So the Center for Whale Research, they had an expedition, a bit of a trip to the other side of Vancouver Island, and they were able to account for every single southern resident, including L90 Balena. So, so Balena was last spotted on the 5th of July, along with the rest of J Pod and L Pod.
And you said the southern residents are about 75 individuals?
Can't remember the exact number at the moment. Um, I'm actually gonna Google that. It's 70. I think it might be 74.
That's
I
still
can't
seems like
remember.
a pretty good
74.
outing. Pretty good outing if they were able to spot the entire population, though. That is still a lot of whales to see.
I believe. I believe at the moment there are 75. Because last year's census was 73.
Mhm,
Uh, since then, there have been four calves. Two didn't survive, but two are surviving now. So I think there
mhm.
are. I think there must be 75 right now. Actually, speaking of the southern residents, we're gonna go on a bit of a pre-recorded segment here, and we can have a bit of a discussion between this and the next pre-recorded segment. Um, this goes on for quite a bit, and then we have our lesser-known species after. So I'm gonna mute for a bit, and we're gonna play a pre-recorded segment called Orca Watch. So it's time for Orca Watch. So Orca Watch, if you don't know, I keep track of the southern residents, big orcas, northern residents, and also some other orcas that might be a little bit notable, like around the world. I don't always cover global orcas. So actually, this has been a very big month. So July is typically orca season. There's a lot of big orcas, usually a lot of northern residents, a lot of southern residents in July. Now, granted, the southern residents haven't been that present this month, and the northern residents have only really recently been very active. So we're going to cover the southern residents first. Now, you may see if you're watching and you're not listening, you may see on the other side of the screen, these are actually some of my own photos of the T65Bs who have been present a lot. We'll get to them with the big orcas. So the biggest thing for Orca Watch is what the Center for Whale Research has been doing at the start of this month. They went out to the outer coast of Vancouver Island, and they did a full survey of the southern residents, and they were able to account for all of the southern residents that we know of, it's including the calves J62 and J63. So they went from, I believe, the 2nd or 3rd of July to the 6th of July. And they were able to possibly ID every single southern resident, which is always a good thing to hear. It's always a little bit concerning when one's missing and they don't manage to ID, because you don't know if that orca's passed away or whether they just weren't seen. So for the southern residents, I should mention the source I use for the southern resident sightings. I use a lot of sources for all these sightings in Orca Watch. For the southern residents, I use Orca Network, I use Center for Whale Research, the Whale Museum, Orca Conservancy, and also the Orca Behavior Institute. I follow their Blue Skies, and I actually get quite a lot of quite a lot of updates on there. Um, so pod by pod. So the last time K pod was seen was the 6th of July. They were seen in the outer coast of Vancouver Island. L pod was the 5th of July, and J pod actually were a little bit special because they came inland. They I actually saw the J pods. The J pod. I actually saw J pod on the Whale Museum webcam. Was able to hear them as well. It's fantastic. hilariously, this was on World Orca Day on the 14th of July, which actually, for me being French, is also another national day. But so I've seen on that webcam, and that was fun. That was just fun. I spent several hours just watching, listening to J-Pod, and they came very close as well. And I want to say I'm really proud of like I'm proud of the fact that there were no boats there. There was only the Center for Wild Research, and I think um, Soundwatch. Hope I got the name right. But there were no tourist boats there, and I don't know if this is true, but I kind of feel like the tourists, the tour operators, like have accepted that they should not be going to the southern residents, and I completely agree. Now, when I go back to the San Juan Islands, I'm hoping to see the southern residents from the shore. Um, if I'm on a boat, I wanna see Biggs. Bigs are doing fine. Southern residents, not so much. I'd love to see them from the shore though. So that brings us on to big orcas. Now, big orcas. Oh, so last time I made the mistake of trying to list every single big orca sighting that there was. Um, yeah, that's not going to happen anymore. There are so many sightings. It's crazy. So what I'm going to say is, if there is a particular pod or a particular family that you are interested in with big orcas, write down in the comments, and I will add that to a watch list, and I'll update to that family every single time I see them as well. I've got my own list, I should mention. Um, so my sources for the big orcas were again Orca Network, the Center for Our Research, the Whale Museum, Orca Conservancy, Orca Behavior Institute, and also Orca Lab, because the thing with big orcas is that their range extends past Johnstone Strait. Like their range is enormous. So the same family can be seen in the areas that we can be following the southern residents, and also the areas where we can be following the northern residents. So I'm gonna keep an eye out more for the bigs on that as well. So my own picks. So my favorite pick, just because it was who it was that there was a tea party. Tea party means a group of at least three different matrilines of bigs. There was a tea party of the T-36s, who I saw when I was over there last year, and they swam right underneath the boat. That was amazing. Them and the T-99s, and the T-99s were spotted in this tea party as well, and they're related. So that's kind of why they're almost always together. There was also the T-65Bs in this teapot as well, which this is the first time since I've been like really following them that I've actually heard of those three pods being together, and that's kind of funny because those three pods are three of the four pods that I saw when I was over in America last year, and I I I go raving on about when I was over there. It's such a magical experience. And the T-123s were also part of that same tea party. So there was, I believe, 16 individuals in total. Um, there was So there's actually been quite a few sightings of lone males recently, and I found this kind of interesting because typically male orcas will not be out on their own, but sometimes they will be. So um, I do wonder why that happens. I'm going to be honest. So there was one particular sighting with T-65Bs and T-49A1. So that's an adult low male that was swimming with the T-65Bs. Now the T65Bs. They're the ones. They are the ones that that you're seeing images of on the left of the screen. They're very special to me, and they have been very active this month. Um, they're special to me because this month last year I went over to San Juan Islands and I saw orcas for the first time. Also saw a rorqual for the first time, a minke whale. I'm hoping to see humpback whales at some point in the future. But so they were the first ones I ever saw. The first orca I ever saw was T65B1 birdsall, followed by his mother Chunk, and it's fantastic to hear updates. This is the whole thing behind conservation and getting people that are maybe aren't super big into to whales and dolphins that have maybe just a idle passing interest. This is the big thing, is getting people to think of these whales and dolphins as individuals, not just as like members of the species. They are individuals. They have their own lives, their own personalities, and I love talking about them as well. So um so I've got no notable births or deaths. Now, granted, this is the bit where I will probably be a little bit unsure on. I have to be keeping track of a lot of different pods to be able to record the births and deaths, but I'm not aware of any actually this month. And the other community that we are now really following a little bit more are the northern residents. Now, the thing with the northern residents is quite a bit more difficult to get updated reports on them because there's less outlets that cover it. The majority of where I get like the sightings data from northern residents are from the Orca Lab reports. That and the amazing webcams by Orca Lab that are hosted on explore.org. They're fantastic. They've got hydrophones, and can I just say, nothing more calming than, for me at least, than listening to the T23s acting like they're cats. they do this. They do this cat-like noise, or it's so fun to listen to. I could listen to them all day. And with the Orca Lab cams, there's actually an underwater camera because the northern residents are kind of unique. They display a unique behavior where they'll actually rub across the bottom of the sea. Uh, Presumably, this is some kind of skincare. I I want to say it's maybe for the same reasons that allokelping exists in southern residents. Um, but you can actually see them on the webcam, and the webcam's underwater, so you actually see them like rubbing along the bottom, and they spend hours there sometimes. So for me, the highlights were the 25th and 26th of July. Now, Orca Lab do have highlight videos of their webcams on their YouTube channel. So those are the two I'd recommend checking out. There's some really good ones there. Now, the sites of the Northern Residents, there are too many to list, and I don't know them too well. So if there is one family you want to hear about, do let me know. There's one family that I have on my list, and that is the A23s and A60. I hope I got that right. A60 Fife was actually spotted with them as well. Well, he is part of the A23s, and so the most frequent. So the northern residents weren't really there all month. They were just there like towards the end of the month. So the most frequent ones were the A50s and the A42s plus A94. So, I want to actually add to that. That another highlight that would be good to watch is the 30th of July rather, which was actually the day where I recorded. I recorded that in the morning. That was yesterday from when we're recording this podcast here. That was actually the best day so far this year, in my opinion. Now, on that webcam, on the Orca Lab webcam, today I've most been really invested in this sea lion that's on one of the cameras. I think like everyone is just talking about this sea lion because there's no orcas today.
You know, it you know what's funny with all of those wildlife, especially anything where it's like you have changing wildlife all the time. It's always funny how viewers will tend to like lock in on, especially on
Yeah.
like if there's an individual that's identifiable. Like I remember at one point I was watching it was a pier cam on the coast of Florida. And so you have all sorts of reef fish that are just swimming in circles around. So you see so many. But there was one fish that had a hook in it, and it would just keep swimming by. And so chat, of course, kept commenting on it. It was just always really funny to see that. And of
And
course they had to start putting up stuff like we can't do anything about it.
pe- people get so invested into like individuals, and
Hmm.
this is part of what I try and do, like not just on the podcast but also in my streams. Um, this is why we haven't adopted Orca, because I think if people get invested into one particular individual,
Hmm.
they start more thinking of like the whole species as not just this species, but this collection of individuals.
In a way, you're putting a face to a name.
Yeah, which is which is the whole point of Orca Watch for me. It's not to say orcas have been in Sailor Sea this month. It's not to say, oh, there's been rice whales in Florida. It's to say which ones. It's so that people can develop favorites, follow their favorites,
Hmm.
and if they if they then do things like donate towards these organizations that do the conservation efforts, if they do that because they want their favorite to be saved, you know what? That helps the whole population.
Yep.
And I think also that kind of is important to get people to realize that these whales and dolphins, it's like they are incredibly intelligent. They are individuals. Like they are individuals. They have their own personality, just like people do.
Hmm.
So, I've got another pre-recorded segment, which is this little bit short. I think it's about 8 minutes. So this will be educate me, and this will be about echolocation. Now, during this portion, I'm going to be playing a clip, an audio clip from the Orca Behavior Institute, and I got permission to use it in the podcast. Um, I will say for today, I've actually changed our fundraiser on the stream. So that's to those on YouTube. I mean, this won't really apply, but those watching live right now on Twitch, I've actually changed our fundraiser for today to the Orca Behavior Institute as a bit of a thank you. Um, so uh, so by the way, this was difficult because I'm like, echolocation is a big topic. How do I make this simple and not get something wrong, not miseducate? So I decided to keep it simple. So I hope you guys enjoy. So I have the task now to educate people on what is echolocation in cetaceans. Bit of a big topic. Now, echolocation is a sense-related action that's specific to certain species of animals. There's not that many species that use it. The most well-known groups are bats and dolphins. Now, cetaceans can live in a vision-limited world, and relying on sight is not always possible. Ask the Amazon River dolphins because they're almost blind. Uh, so one branch of cetaceans, Odontoceti, there's say toothed whales. Uh, Now, if you want more information on the split between Mysticeti and Odontoceti, check the previous episode of the podcast because we did an educate me on that as well back then. Now, Odontoceti have developed an organ located in the head. This organ is called the melon, and this is located forward of the brain, so it's right at the front of the forehead. Baleen, I'm leaving that in. I'm leaving that in. Baleen whales do not have a melon, so they are incapable of echolocation. However, this does not mean that they don't have fantastic hearing. In fact, they've got a massive repertoire of songs and they communicate quite frequently. Now, firstly, I'll try and explain echolocation as simply as possible without going into the biology of it, because it is kind of complicated. And not not everyone wants to know the biology of it. They just want to know what it does and why it's useful. So, in the simplest of terms, echolocation is sonar. This is the act of sending out a sound wave. The sound wave then hits something in the water or in air if it's a bat, and then it will rebound off that object back to the sender. So, a good example is if a fish is in open water and a dolphin sends a sound wave. Let me see if I can find a prop actually. Okay, I found a prop. So let's say this is a fish in the water, and the dolphin sends a sound wave. The sound wave will hit the object, and the sound that goes along the sides of the object, for instance, like the outline of the fish, those will continue traveling. But the sound that hits the object will rebound back to the dolphin. And that way, the dolphin can see where in the water this object it knows there's an object there because that's the sound that's gone back. And the dolphins will be able to tell based on location and how quick the sound came back, usually the size and shape of the fish, but they won't see the open water around it because that won't reflect. Now, sound does travel 4 times faster underwater than it does in air, and the so the dolphin brain is able to work out based on how long the sound takes to come back where this fish is and how large it is. So the toothed whales have an organ called the melon, which is located forward of the brain, and they create sound in their nasal sacs. If you imagine a whale, or well, a dolphin. It's better to imagine a dolphin because if you're imagining a whale like a blue whale, this doesn't apply. Um, so a dolphin, or think of it as a sperm whale or anything, or think of it as an orca. So an orca's blowhole is located quite far back. So that's where the nasal sacs are. So the nasal sacs um, will be what creates the sound, and this is forced through the melon. Now, the melon has a very composition with very varied wax concentrations within it. This allows the melon to act as a focusing lens, which means that cetaceans have the ability, particularly, well, odontocetes have the ability to focus sound directionally, which is the case with echolocation. Cetaceans have they also have ears, but they're not external. So the ears are actually in the lower jaw. You won't be able to find it. You might be able to find it on a skull, but you won't be able to find it looking at a cetacean. You won't see where that sound comes from, goes to. So echolocation is done through low pitch clicks. Now, some would say that echolocation is seeing with sound. I prefer to use the analogy that it's more close to touch with sound. So in a minute, I'm gonna play an audio clip of echolocation recorded on a hydrophone, so that you'll be able to easily recognize it in the future. Now, this audio clip was found on the Orca Behavior Institute website, and they have kindly given us permission to use it. The Orca Behavior Institute is one of the foremost orca research organizations in the Salish Sea. And actually, during our Orca Watch segment, we actually used some of the sightings coming from their social media posts uh, to see what orcas are aware. So they're one of the best for posting those as well, particularly with the bigs, because we don't always get all the sightings of the bigs. So it's nice to have some. So this particular audio clip can actually be found on their Orca Acoustics page. So this is Orca echolocation, which if you're an orca enthusiast or just generally curious, I highly recommend checking that page out. That page has not just echolocation on, but pretty much all orca acoustics relating to southern residents and even bigs on the sea. So the page does a fantastic job at collating important papers on the orca acoustics as well, especially those found in the Salish Sea. And on their website, it's arranged in such an easy and it's an easy way to understand it and easy to learn. And it's a fantastic resource to learn more about not just cetacean acoustics, but more specifically orca acoustics, if you're interested in that. So we're about to play that clip. If you have any questions on echolocation, ask them in the comments. I will respond to them. So here is the clip. Now, you may not have heard it at first because you may not know what you're trying to hear. It's the click, 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 click. So I'm gonna play it again. This. So that is the echolocation that you can hear. You can hear that on hydrophones. Uh, Sometimes you hear the echolocation and you don't hear calls because big orcas will also not make calls, but they'll echolocate sometimes. So that's with orca echolocation. I do not have any sound clips for sperm whales, unfortunately. When I was in Italy, we had the hydrophone playing on the boat, and we could hear, and the sounds were getting quicker as it got closer to prey, and then it would just stop, and it would start going slow again. And those clicks were very loud. Sperm whales have the loudest, well, probably the strongest echolocation in the animal kingdom. So hopefully that was educational. Hopefully it was. I just want to take a quick moment to say thank you to Zarf in chat for donating $5 towards the Orca Behavior Institute. And thank you once again to the Orca Behavior Institute for allowing us to use that audio clip. So, Gio, you said you had trouble hearing it.
Yeah, no, I do have to preface, I do have some hearing damage, and I know that I do have certain frequencies that are that I definitely have hearing loss in.
Okay.
So I definitely was struggling to hear the clicks.
Okay. It is difficult to it's difficult to like tell what they are, like if you don't know what you're like trying to listen to as well. I will say
Mhm.
that. There's the click, 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 click. Um,
Yep.
I do have the capacity of playing it again if anyone would like to hear it again. Maybe not. Okay. So, do you like squirrels?
Squirrels?
Yeah, squirrels.
Yeah, squirrels are cool.
Okay. Oh, but by the way, I should mention the link to the Orca Behavior Institute Orca Acoustics page will be pinned in the comment. Pinned comment. So the reason why I ask, do you like squirrels? Is because we're about to talk about the squirrels of the sea,
Ooh.
as some will call them. So this is our lesser known species. Now, the information during this segment can be found on the WDC website, Whale and Dolphin Conservation. And they have also given us permission to use information for the podcast that is found on their website. So, this segment is really because I want to educate people or like make people aware of like certain species that they might not know about. Now,
The
granted,
ones that don't have as good of a marketing team.
exactly. Now, granted, hover porpoises are probably stretching it a little bit. They're kind of well known, but um, well, last week we actually had last month we actually had bowhead whales. Next month could be rice whales. It could also be the vaquita. Uh,
Mhm.
do want to cover them. Um, they're also. I'm thinking maybe not covering river dolphins. They're kind of quite well known. I want to
Yeah, I
cover
feel like at this point.
a beaked whale as well.
Ooh, that'd be fun.
Beaked whales are very difficult to find information on. uh, when I went to Italy, I went as part of like it was like a work holiday where I was on a research vessel, like on
Mhm.
board it the whole 2 weeks, of like live aboard, and so I was helping them out. And one of the things they said at the start is like, there's the potential to see beaked whales here,
Mhm.
but we have to say the word potential is important here. You will not see a beaked whale. You could. They live here. You will not see one because they do not like. You can't hear them that well on a hydrophone echolocating, particularly when there
Mhm.
are sperm whales in the area echolocating.
Yeah.
And I wish I
So
yeah. Go ahead.
so basically, if you saw one, that would have been a sign for you to go out immediately and buy a lottery ticket,
Yeah.
'cause you must be having a lucky day.
Oh yeah. Well, I mean, I saw sperm whale there on the very last day, on a day where we probably shouldn't have gone out,
Mhm.
given the weather. But we did.
Yeah, I've done
And
that once or twice.
the thing with the sperm whale is like we had a hydrophone, so we could hear the echolocation, which means we knew there was one around. So it was just all about waiting until it comes to the surface. Hit the surface
Mhm.
for about 10 minutes, and then we'll be able to sight it.
Now are the hydrophones directional?
This one was omnidirectional, I think.
Okay.
Uh, I think they are sometimes. I don't know too much about hydrophones, honestly, but I think you can get omnidirectional. You can get directional ones as well.
Yeah, and because you could certainly do stereo.
Oh yeah. Oh, actually, yeah. That's good.
Mhm.
Could
Well, because
probably
you
work out
because you
where they
do that
are.
too, if you're working on the boat, if you actually had them set up in stereo left and right, and you were actually broadcasting it on deck left and right,
Yeah,
um, so you could actually use your ears intuitively of, oh, which way are we looking?
yeah. So okay, so harbor porpoises. I could see us just going on a train of thought about like echolocation, which actually
Oh yeah.
honestly isn't a problem. If you guys want to hear us talk more about echolocation during Q&A, let us know. So harbor porpoises, um, do they echolocate geophits?
I have no clue.
You know, no clue. So harbor porpoises are odontoceti, which means they are toothed whales. So they do. They have a melon.
Okay. Mm,
So they
good
are
melon.
in the. Oh, I had melon today. Okay, let's let's stay on topic. So they're part of the family Phoconidae. Did I didn't butcher that. It's fine. I pronounced it well enough. It's Latin. It's impossible to pronounce.
Yeah.
That's the whole point.
I haven't taken Latin in 25 years, so you're doing better than me.
Yeah. So porpoises is a group of it's a small group of a few species, and these are a group within the toothed whales. They are separate from sperm whales, separate from river dolphins, separate from uh, dolphins, oceanic dolphins, separate from monodons, which are belugas and narwhals. So they're kind of on that kind of level taxonomically. Their range is colossal. Um, Harbor porpoises are only found in the northern hemisphere and prefer cooler temperate waters, but they are located all around the globe. In that kind in those latitudes. So they're only located in the northern hemisphere, but they're located all around. Like, then don't know if they're found in the Arctic Circle. So they're mostly a coastal-based species, and they are sometimes seen swimming up rivers. So they can go up rivers, and they're like a they're like a really small dolphin.
Mm.
That's
Oh,
probably the best way to describe them.
it sounds like if they're coastal but have that range all the way around, that they probably also have isolated populations that don't intermix.
Yeah, they do. So we'll get onto that in a bit because there are some populations that are in danger,
Hmm.
but like the global population is around 700,000,
Mm.
which is enormous for a cetacean. So their prey, they eat small schooling fish such as herring and small cephalopods. Cephalopods are squid, things like that. They have a high metabolism and live a very fast lifestyle. So they actually have to eat roughly 10% of their body weight each day. Like, imagine that. Like, you have to go hunting to find enough food for 10% of your body weight.
Yeah.
Because that's how much you
The
expend.
hmm Yeah, if put that into human terms, 15 to 20 pounds, of food. Like,
That's
and a hungry man, TV dinner is advertised as being 1 pound.
and and you can't just order it in. You have to go and find that.
Yeah.
So, so like I'd imagine you're going to like you're going to fast food and like you get stuff from there and then they're out. So you have to go to the next fast food and next one. Except
Hmm.
except the fast food actually has legs and is running away from you.
Yep. See, my best bet for that would definitely be fishing.
Would you would you catch 10% of your body weight?
Okay, so if I was actually around where I am, it wouldn't be that difficult. Um, obviously season depending. Well, I mean, okay, if I had a boat, it wouldn't be that difficult. Um, but even if I even if I just had to work from shore, or even like a kayak, under human power, like yeah, it would be rough to catch 20 pounds worth of edible fish, saying 20 pounds after cleaning.
Well,
But I wouldn't say that it was impossible either.
you'd have to cook it. Well, I guess sushi.
Um, yeah, actually, you know what a lot of charter fishing captains around here do is they love ceviche. Especially because we get these, they're called gray snappers, or Key West grunts, and they're extremely plentiful, small fish. Um, and so like you get really small fillets off of them. I mean, they taste good, but they're small fillets. So what a lot of these guys do is they just chop it up, and throw it in a Ziploc bag and make ceviche.
Okay, so how do we identify harbor porpoises? So that honestly, I have seen so many harbor porpoises in my time. I have never once got one on a photo or on camera. Like I have never once got one, even a video of one, because they are very small. They do not have a beak. They have a very small triangular dorsal fin just behind the center mass. And likely the best way to identify these is knowing that they're in the area and they're the thing that's going to be surfacing and gone before you notice. Just, just you'll just know their size and they're just in out, in out. You won't even see the blow. Just in out. Um,
They live in that gotta go fast lifestyle.
yeah, they're fast. So yeah, I actually have on my script here. Take it from personal experience. Photographing these guys is a nightmare. It's like spotting the Loch Ness. Um, it's not like
If you get
spotting.
it, it's gonna be blurry.
It's not like it's not like spotting the Loch Ness monster. It's like getting on camera. Like
Well,
imagine the look.
that's why all the pictures of Nessie are always blurry.
Yeah, because you can't see that it's a log. If
Hmm.
it's blurry, you can't prove it wrong.
Exactly.
It's a shape in the water. It could be a duck or it could be a prehistoric plesiosaur. People actually believe it's a plesiosaur, and it's no a leoparodon. I think was the best one I had for the Loch Ness monster.
Oh, ooh, when we finish, I I have a topic that actually would be interesting in relation to the Loch Ness monster, but it might go too long.
We can hear it after, like at the
Yeah,
end,
let's do that.
since we don't have any questions to answer. So, harbor porpoises are called the squirrels of the sea in some places. For those that go whale watching, whether on a boat or ashore, in the regions that these guys live in, they're likely the most commonly spotted cetacean. You like in a week, you can probably see hundreds, if not thousands, of them. They're like you go out on a boat and they're just there, like plopping in and out. Um, so they actually live either in solitary or in small groups, but they're very numerous in some places. So
Hmm.
global population, they are doing very, very well, and most likely the biggest threats towards them, and particularly like porpoises in general. And this is a big problem for the vaquita. Uh, in what's it called? It's in Baja California,
Hmm.
and so there's about 10 of them left. And the biggest threat towards them and porpoises in general, and I guess harbor porpoises, are fishing nets. Since they're very small, they can easily be caught in a net, or easily be entangled, and they'll drown.
Hmm.
And there are some populations in the world of harbor porpoises, particularly in the Baltic and the Black Seas, who are under threat in terms of their population size.
Hmm. Yeah, and I actually just pulled up a range map because you had mentioned of if they went into the Arctic Circle, and this at least this range map shows them going that far north. But the interesting thing there, because I was thinking about if they were isolated, and that Black Sea and Balkan population seems to be isolated from the Atlantic population.
Yeah. So at that point, you could probably even you like if you did enough studies, you will probably even find that they're different subspecies.
Hmm.
And I mean, if they're geographically separated, then maybe they should be treated as different subspecies. Because so the definition for a species is a group of organisms that naturally reproduce to produce fertile offspring. Now,
Hmm.
harbor porpoises in the Black Sea do not naturally reproduce with those found in the Sailor Sea because they're on the other sides of the planet. So at that point, there's argument that could be a different subspecies or species. But I guess if you started applying that everywhere,
Yeah,
like
well, and
you,
I think the thing that the point there is they haven't lost the capability. You know, like they haven't lost the, or sorry, I'm going in the wrong direction. Um, There need what I believe is the answer is that there needs to be significant enough morphological differences between two isolated populations for one of them to be considered a subspecies. Because I
so
actually was reading about this about some islands. They're a little bit south of Baja California, where there's a raccoon that um, is a distinct subspecies from continental common raccoons, and really the differences are very minor, and it really comes down to like they have like a different head shape, and they have a little bit different fur, but like there's enough to distinguish between the two, but not so much that they can be a separate species.
so we got a question in chat. Is echo type exclusive to orcas? It is not. An echo type could apply to so many different species.
And I feel like echo type is kind of doing the same thing as like subspecies definitions, but it's more around um their location and their behaviors.
The
Does that
thing,
sound about right?
yeah, the thing with echo type, and this refers to like the southern resident orcas, is that echo type doesn't have the same weight as like a species or subspecies when it comes to conservation. And I've always been of the opinion that like southern resident orcas should be considered at the very least a different subspecies to big orcas, if not a different species entirely. And my argument was always that while they could reproduce to produce fertile offspring, they do not, and it's not because of it's not because of a geographical barrier or a
Mhm.
physical barrier. It's
But,
because of a society barrier.
mhm,
They choose not to. A cultural barrier. Yeah.
mhm.
So I want to take a moment to give a shout to a few more a few more charity related things that have gone on this month. So the Center for Whale Research this month announced that they are now doing gift memberships. You can actually gift a membership there to other people. Um, and this month also had World Orca Day and World Orca Week. So World Orca Week is 11th to 17th of July, and World Orca Day is 14th of July. And the whole reason behind World Orca Day being a thing is because orcas are an umbrella species, which we mentioned earlier in the podcast. And what that means is what happens to them, like, is evidence of something else happening to everything below them in the ecosystem. Uh, I won't go into detail about this because we have already covered this earlier. Um, so you had something to mention earlier, Gio.
Oh, yes, and kind of in terms of, oh yeah, the Loch Ness Monster is what made me think of this. So,
Yes.
um,
So this is where we go
interesting.
off topic.
Yeah, so I think this is actually a really interesting science topic, and I think for anyone that's just interested in biology and evolution in general, I think this is a neat topic to look at. And it's called island syndrome. Um, and island syndrome describes the differences in morphology, ecology, physiology, and behavior of insular species compared to their continental counterparts. So that's, like when you look at, say, an island in the ocean, and there are, birds and reptiles and mammals and whatever else that are on the island over time. What are things that we generally see happen in evolution, of because of the differences in selective pressures. And so you get things like, there's usually less apex predators, so prey species become less wary. And there's even a species of or a subspecies of a cottontail rabbit that has basically lost its fear of predators, even humans. Like, you can walk up to them and they're just like, "Hey, how's it going? You out for a nice stroll?" Because they've just lost that prey instinct because of the situation. Um, Another thing that's common to happen is, um, for large species to get smaller and smaller species to get bigger.
So
So you kind of have. Mhm.
I've got a perfect example of that actually. It's the kiwi bird in New Zealand.
Yep, that's one of the great examples, of that. There's also I'm blanking on the name of it now, but it was a New Zealand flightless bird, but it had
Moa bird.
evolved. Yeah, the moa, and it had evolved so far back towards not having wings that it didn't even have like the connection points and like the pectoral muscles that birds with wings have. Like all of that was already gone, because when you have less pressure as prey, when you have more or less competition for food, you just kind of get, well, first you get a little bit of a homogenization because there's less need to fit a specific niche within the island's economy, so to speak. But like with these moa birds, they had already evolved to the point where they had like a really heavy and thick skeleton because they didn't need to fly anymore. And like, it was a really, really interesting topic just overall
It's
to look at.
it was so when I was at university, this was like it wasn't just a big topic. This was a whole module
Hmm.
because there are so many perfect examples of this in the world. One place I
Mhm.
went to, the Seychelles, all the bird species, like the bird species are so different because each island is super different.
Mhm.
Hawaii is also another perfect example of that.
Yep.
Because there's several islands that are not connected. The the go-to, the best example of this, and the go-to for any scientist talking about this topic. Can you guess what it is?
Hmm.
It's famous. Darwin went there.
Oh, the Galapagos.
The Galapagos. The
So,
Galapagos are perfect for this.
an interesting thing on that, and that I was reading, and now, granted, I was just reading Wikipedia, so don't quote me on this. Double check me, fact check me, please. But the Galapagos giant tortoises were brought up, but with the thought though that in more recent times the belief is that these are actually like the last individuals of a giant tortoise population that used to span the globe, because there have been so many other fossils found around, around the world, of giant tortoises.
So
So those might not be, they might be. Eh.
so there is a species of giant tortoise in the Seychelles still. There's
Mhm.
about 200 of them left. Yeah, the interesting thing was, actually New Zealand is another, just New Zealand as a whole, to see the difference between New Zealand and Australia. I think
Mhm.
how the hell has that evolved in that
Yeah.
way? Like Australia is like Australia, you like one in every like 10 animals is powerful enough to kill a person. And in New Zealand, you might have a sheep that might give you a bit of a bad headbutt.
Oh, and you had a really big flightless bird that was probably tasted pretty good.
Oh yeah, I mean, you still have big flightless birds in Australia.
Yeah,
They're called cassowaries.
yeah.
Don't go near
No,
them.
no,
Don't go near them. Uh, they are probably not good for your health to be near them.
no, generally not. Oh, one last thing to the island syndrome, because this is where the rabbit hole led me, was to, and I can't remember the name. I think it's Hateg. It's like Hateg, but one of those letters has some extra character around it because it's Romanian.
Yeah,
Um, and it's uh this area that's roughly the size of Hispaniola, which is the island that makes up Hawaii, Haiti, and the Dominican Republic. In Romania, that was a prehistoric, I believe it was late Cretaceous period island, that was estimated or believed to be at least 100 miles or so from any other landmass. And so the fossils from this particular area, they exhibit, the island dwarfism and island gigantism. So one good example of that was the titanosaurs. So that's like big vegetarian, dinosaurs,
yeah,
on that.
sauropod.
Yeah, that on like the continental mass, they averaged around 76 tons, but the largest titanosaurs in on this island only weighed about 1 ton.
So I found another example of island syndrome. The Great
Mhm,
Lakes in Africa. The
mhm,
the aquatic, and these are freshwater lakes. So the aquatic ecosystem in these lakes are vastly different
mhm,
because they're not connected. They're not interconnected. They're isolated. So
mhm,
the ecosystem there is evolving specifically to the pressures in isolation in those particular lakes, and so evolution is then influencing other evolution, and you can actually look and see that there's a lot of different things between the different lakes. And I remember in university I was one of the biggest examples. Of course, what I was studying was marine biology. So.
Yeah, and and one thing I think that can be a little bit hard to grasp, immediately is, you when you think of an island, obviously you think of a piece of land and a body of water, right? But there are a lot of other ways that places can be an island. Like for example, the above the tree line on the highest mountain in a mountain range, it's perfectly possible that you could have some species that is living up on this peak that can't come down below the tree line and thus can never intermingle with the rest of the population, and so you can get the same kind of evolution there because they are you know
Yeah,
segregated off from the greater population.
yeah. It's these these are locations which probably most of our knowledge about evolution comes from these kinds of instances.
Hmm.
Is to see like what why, and this is something that really fascinates me. I love learning about this, and I love speculating about this. Like, of how did this animal evolve in this way? Why did it evolve this? Like, what
Hmm.
selective pressure was put on this species to evolve in this way? And
Hmm.
there there is in nature there is no such thing as a useless evolutionary adaptation. Now, granted, it can be useless now, but at some point it was useful. So there's you mentioned about flightless birds having completely lost the joints of their wings. Some still have the joints in their wings, but that's just because they've not lost it yet. But at
Yeah, it's
some
like
point
most.
it was functional.
And I think with the moas, it was very like um notable that they had evolved that far, because no, I don't think any other flightless bird has evolved quite that far to just saying like, yep, I don't need wings or even forelimbs at all.
Yeah. Uh, Honestly, that whole family of birds is fascinating because there's there's like so many species, but they're all in different continents.
Hmm.
Like the ostrich is one of those kinds of birds,
Yep.
and the ostrich has evolved completely different than everyone else. I don't fact check me on whether the ostrich is one of them because I think I actually got proved wrong on that the other day. But yeah,
Yep.
I actually
And
got
also,
proved wrong on that by my mum.
mhm. And to finish out the island syndrome topic, the harbor porpoise, if assuming no other, or assuming that they survived the human touch, with that group being over there in the Black Sea, and that area isolated, they could potentially be a small enough population compared to the Atlantic and Pacific populations that over thousands or tens of thousands of generations, the harbor porpoises could potentially over time show that same kind of island syndrome traits.
Yeah, so they'll evolve to adapt to that particular environment.
Yeah, especially if like the entrance to the Black Sea were to close, like if there was a earthquake or something that just was like, yep, we have no more access to the Black Sea anymore.
Yeah, I a a side topic that I find interesting on this same thing as well is kind of so we're talking about like species that will evolve away from like the original species in isolation. I also find it very interesting, and we touched upon this concept earlier on in the podcast, is convergent evolution, to where
Hmm.
two completely different species will actually evolve the same thing for
Yep.
whatever reason.
Sometimes under the same, basically same stimulus.
Yeah.
Sometimes under completely different stimulus. Like the crab. The crab is the perfect life form.
Uh, I would throw crocodiles into that ring. There's
They're
a
the okay.
there,
No,
there's a
they're the
reason why
longest
they haven't
lasting.
evolved.
Okay, sure. They're the longest lasting.
They haven't evolved in like millions of years because they don't need to.
True.
Honestly, there's so many species that you could say like their peak evolution. Heck, horseshoe crabs, for instance. How
Hmm.
how many how
Yeah.
many hundreds of millions of years have they been
Oh,
around?
so but my point though is that we've had, I believe it's 6 different times that we've had that nature has created a crab from scratch.
Actually, I'll have to look up about this. This is interesting. I'll have to look up about this.
Well, and just when you think about it just in general, like, why might that be with a crab? Well, armor body, okay, that makes sense. Compact form, yeah, that definitely makes sense. Scavenger, yeah, you're gonna survive. When things get tough, well, the guy that's willing to eat the fish carcass off the floor, he's the one that's gonna survive.
Yeah. Okay. So I think I think we call it here. I've forgotten how I sign off on these. I think I'll just play the intro back again. uh,
I mean, if you don't like it, then just you can change it in the edit.
yeah, I can edit post like the outro. We'll just go on
You
an
know that's
outro and there'll be something else.
that's the most expensive line in Hollywood, right? We'll fix it in post.
To render one of these in DaVinci is a pain.
Mhm. I
Uh,
know.
guys, thank you everyone for watching. Thank you once again to GeoFits for joining. Um, I'm gonna post. I'm gonna post. Do you need to be in the pinned comment on YouTube? I could just say twitch.tv/geofits4. If
Yeah,
you're
that'll be fine.
wondering how to spell Geofits, he's actually been best viewer of the entire stream, up in the top left corner. That's handy. I was noticing that earlier and thought that's handy. Hope it stays that way.
I
And
didn't
then
even notice it.
then I give it a shout on stream once we end the recording because it will pop up something on screen. So okay, we'll add okay, so we'll start the timer and I need to like podcast end where it's only like 5 seconds. Yeah, this has been really fun. Thank you so much for joining me, Gio. Thank you, everyone in chat. And thank you for the $5 donation towards the Orca Behavior Institute. And I'll see you guys next month.